very, very good day to our viewers. And we have with us on this channel today none less than Mr. Kannan Gopinathan, who is a well-known voice in the public sphere, former IAS officer who stood for principles, and he's been extremely active on the issue of transparency in governance, particularly on the question of accountability of institutions. Mr. Gopinathan, thank you so much for having this conversation again with me.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I just thought that given the resurfacing of the controversy in May 2024 and again in October and now this November 2024 related to the elections, we would talk about some degree of trust building and transparency in the electoral process. So my first question to you is actually comes from a tweet of yours in May 2024, where you said that what is the problem with the Election Commission putting out the 17C data when it's just a click away from the app, and making it available will help build trust. If you could just explain that for a minute to our viewers, what the principle of that transparency could mean to what seems to be a breakdown of trust between the Election Commission and sections of the people, at least.
I think our processes in elections especially was built around participation by the political parties, the candidates, their agents, etc. And the processes by making it participatory was supposed to have that trust inbuilt in the thing. But as we moved away from the old ballot-based systems and we moved to machines and then further data collections through apps, etc., some of those participatory mechanisms are not sufficient anymore. And also the commission is at a much more better position as a centralized agency to provide this information to all the concerned parties there. The 17C is essentially nothing but a summary of the vote that has happened on the day, poll day. And it is given, a copy of it is given to all the polling agents which are present, right? So polling agents are the agents who are assigned, appointed by the candidates to each booth. Now, there is an issue here. Only few candidates have the wherewithal because you also need to pay them. You also need to give them, provide them something like as some sort of a reimbursement or something. So it's not possible for all candidates to appoint a polling agent in all the booths. So few candidates only, the national parties or the stronger parties of the region or the strong independent candidates, only those are able to do it. So in the initial process itself, some of the weaker candidates or independent candidates, or I would say less resourceful candidates, were not equally party to this process. Like they were not getting a 17C copy because they did not have somebody who's out there in the booth. No, so the belief was that since the 17C, which will have a total number of votes polled, like when it was started, whether the mock poll was cleared or not, and then they also need to sign all those details, and where the polling agents also sign, this becomes a kind of a trust document that at the time end of voting is given to the agents of the candidate, and you take it from here, and at the day of counting you bring it so that you can verify from your end that okay, total number of votes polled were this, and when we open the EVM or ballot or whichever process that we are doing, you can verify whether the total number of votes polled at that and are counted at this end are same or not. So these are essentially made in triplicate, one given to all the polling agents who are present, one submitted back along with the EVM, and one it is kept outside for the scrutiny of the candidates on the next day, like very next day, right? Now, earlier, this collection and all was very local, in the sense that it never went to the commission, all this 17C copy and all those. So it would not have been possible for Election Commission to anyway provide this data from a point of view to all the parties. But now it is not like that. After, I think from 2019 onwards, you have been trying with this data collection system, centralized data collection system, where we are collecting this data from the booths and verifying it at the district level and sending it to the Election Commission, and the commission actually can get this data, right? What are the total number of votes polled, and this is like which polling station. You can select the number and then immediately download that. And so if once we have that information very easily available with us, there is no additional resource required from the commission side to make that data public. This is a public data, right? And if you look at a transparency angle or right to information angle, whatever is available, readily available information and is supposed to be public should be proactively made public by the government institutions, right? So then why not do that? so that at least it also makes the playing field level for all the candidates involved, because they are not at the loss that on the day I did not have this 17C, or somebody did not give it, somebody has only few. All this confusion is not actually get rid of. One copy of this can be provided. If not centrally, not possible. We have a triplicate copy at the district level or the assembly constituency level. At least that copy can be also provided. We don't need to be what you call so protective about a 17C document, which is a public document, which is just saying that how many total number of votes were there, and the female votes, and the number of male votes, and whether there were any challenge votes or tender votes. These are information which anybody as a voter should know, right? So why to be protective about that particular information? And we can. And I was just alluding to the point that now that we have this, and I had shared a screenshot also, if I'm not mistaken, that you can just click here and download that and share it with whoever who asks for, right? And why not do it? So now that you're collecting data centrally, you can also share it centrally. You don't need to be adamant about, no, only if you have a polling agent, you can get this data. So I may not have like 300 polling agents, but I may be able to appoint 16 counting agents, right?
Yeah.
So I can appoint that 16 counting agents and give them this data and say that, okay, this is the 17C from which is verified. You take it out from here. And the polling agents will anyway, from the political parties, they'll have their copies also. So I did not understand the resistance in sharing these kind of information now that we have it very readily available. I think that continuously that's a question. Why are we what are like who are we trying to protect this data from? Our own citizens, our own voters. We conduct the elections for them. We are entrusting our voters to elect the next government, and then we are saying we don't want to give this data to you, right? I don't understand that reluctance at all. Yeah.
Yeah, so that brings me actually to two, three more subsidiary questions. One being that under Article 324 to 329, the whole concept of free and fair election, the Election Commission of India, constitutional body, I think, as even argued by Madhav Deshpande and others, this data actually belongs to the people.
Yeah.
Because it is the people that the Election Commission is responsible to, not to the party in power or in the opposition. So the data should be something which is freely available in some fashion or another to the people of India.
In the RP Act also, it is very clear.
Yeah.
The documents which are not to explicitly mentioned as not to be shared, other documents have to be made public anyway. Now,
Yeah.
now, like, yeah, we can make it difficult. But again, the question is like, who are we making it difficult for? Our own citizens, right? A lot of people are asking this, why are you not giving the total number of votes polled, or, this question, like, why are you not disclosing that information? And commission was taking probably inordinate amount, like time to put this data out. And I was wondering why that could be the case, right? You can just put it out. There were some cases where the candidates went to the district election officers or the ROs and asked for 17C copies, and they said we don't have any instructions from the election commission to share that with you, right? So a copy which is essentially just how many votes were polled in each booth, the candidates do not have access, right? They're saying you do not have, because you did not appoint a polling agent.
Actually, the key questions and the key words actually are trust, proactively give, and that the data is actually the constitutional property of citizens.
Yeah.
I also want to mention that I think the 17C data also mentions the EVM battery level, which it was or is at the time of the counting process, when it closes. And there have been some questions raised about, at what percentage the battery has been when it's opened up again. And in fact, I know one constituency in Mumbai, I don't want to say it's in many places, where a losing candidate alleged that, till such time as the battery was at 60, 67, 66%, the trend, and I watched that particular candidate's trajectory through the day. He was actually winning, though by narrow margins, but increasingly more margin. And then suddenly towards the end, there were 8 or 10 booths where the battery showed 99% and the entire trend changed. This is Fahad Ahmed in the Anushakti Nagar constituency. So I don't know whether you'd like to comment on that, because this battery percentage has also become a very, very key point of controversy.
I don't I haven't studied that particular case in detail, to be honest, to comment on that. But for me, like, either then we are suggesting that EVMs were different, right? The whole together different EVMs were brought in, or something was done in the strong room during the storage of the thing, right? Now, EVMs are essentially sealed, right? After the polling is done, and if the polling agents are there, then again the polling agents, their signature, how diligent they are, and all this comes, and a lot of this also assumes that it's a level playing field inside the polling station also, which is also not the case. In many cases, many of these are strong control areas of certain candidates and certain, depends on whichever area.
And
They
all parties have that. All parties have that.
all parties have that, right? And they have very strong control over that booth. So the fact that just a polling agent was there does not mean that he had all the power to raise questions, or
And he had the ability to assert himself.
yeah, absolutely. And generally the polling agent is also from the same booth, or a voter of the same booth, so that even diminishes it in a lot more way. That is also one reason I think the centralized distribution, actually, if it is collected centrally, then you should just distribute it centrally. You make it a lot easier for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Whereas the battery percentage issue has been raised, not here, I think it was raised before also, in Haryana election also, I think it was raised. I've
Correct.
not been able to find much on it, to be very honest, because either just changing the battery doesn't change the result, right? Like, that is the thing. So either the EVMs have been changed, or the the some kind of an external access has happened to the EVM. So if I go through this allegation, like, this question, two of this has to happen. If the EVMs have been changed, then we are saying at the time of counting, the question is not about 99% or 66% of the battery. Then the question is, are the serial numbers matching? Are the seals tampered with? Do the counts match? Right? There are like 5 questions which come at that point of time, and then you're actually asking questions on them, right? So the battery is an intermediary thing. I can understand that raising the concern, like the suspicion on that part, but whether that is the reason for this, because a lot of this, what I would say, data entry that happens at the polling station also is I have personal experience where I've told you, in a 17C people have written galis, right? So the person did not want to be part of the election at all, and he was so frustrated being made a officer in the polling officer. I wrote some random stuff, and then we had to actually go behind him and then take action and all that stuff. So one part I agree. And also then you also have to see in the same booths what was the results like in the previous elections, right? Was it a kind of resonating with the change, or is it something else that has changed, right? All these things can give an answer. But if there is clear evidence, I'm sure that is a reason enough to challenge.
So actually, that brings us to the key question, but I'll come to that in a minute, about the standalone EVMs and the vulnerability of the EVS system, the environment, the voting system, not just the EVM machine. But before that, I just thought a general question I wanted to raise is, you mentioned election petitions. So, the other frustration with candidates, whichever candidate files an election petition, and unfortunately it can be ruling party or opposition, depending on which side you're at that point. But should there not be some sort of a guarantee that this is decided within 6 months? Because otherwise it's completely meaningless, the whole process. I've seen so many election petitions where in the beginning you feel it's such a just petition, and by the time the hearing happens, all interest has dwindled.
Many cases, even when there was one case wherein I think Gujarat High Court had ordered the disqualification of the candidate, and then Supreme Court gave it a stay, and then essentially the 5-year term. Very rarely a High Court decides on an election, and even when that is decided, instead of like rendering it effect, it gets stayed. So I'm not saying election petition is as a solution.
Yeah.
But at least
But it is a remedy. It is a remedy.
it's at least to explore. I don't even consider it as a remedy, to be very honest, because nothing comes out of it, right? As you rightly said,
or it's supposed to be a remedy.
It's supposed to be a remedy, yeah. But at least we can explore this a little more. That it's certainly a concern. If something is written, 66% or 50% or whatever is the percentage that is written on the EVM, and whether when they are showing it, what is it being shown, whether the batteries have been changed or not changed.
There also seems to be a concern among citizens, rightly or wrongly, that the courts tend to treat an election result as done and dusted, and then not wanting to question it, with complete faith in the election commission. Blind, sometimes seems like blind, they don't want to actually probe further. So the whole idea of one constitutional body looking at another constitutional body and all the dynamics of that sort of steps in, and that makes, I think, the trust element with the people even more tricky.
Commission is repeatedly, and I used to take pride also in that fact that there is a lot of trust, right? Just trust us, trust me, bro, right? So we are fair, right? But that trust was not just based on an election as a process or a poll or a counting as a process. That trust was built around a whole lot of other decisions which commission was able to take, and which conveyed to the public that irrespective of who is party in power, commission is independent and it can take an independent call. When all the other decisions, right, irrespective of whom it can reprimand, who it can stop from giving a hate speech, who does it have even a courage to address a letter to the prime minister themselves, right? If these questions, then people start looking at, okay, they are not fair, right? Now, if they're not fair in these things, how can we be sure that they're fair in the process, right?
Yeah,
So this kind of gets extended from one to the other, and I think the justice or even the fairness part that seems to be seen. It's just not that what you've done; it needs to be seen, and we have uh, unprecedented case where in the last 5 years, two election commissioners who are supposed to be the chief election commissioners have left midway from the commission, right?
correct.
With no reasons assigned. We have
Yeah,
not heard of this before. And then commission says, trust us.
mm,
And then the person who is saying trust us is just leaving tomorrow without telling why they are leaving,
yeah.
right? So then who are we supposed to trust? And before the election,
220, in fact, just to go back a bit further, in November 2023, the
yeah,
Supreme Court three-judge bench says that the appointment of the commissioner should include the Chief Justice of India.
yeah,
And unhappy with that decision, this present government just completely overturns that entire thing through a law it brings in. So
yeah.
it's misusing Parliament and majority in Parliament to actually go
On
against the
that
Supreme
particular thing, I wouldn't blame the government much, because it was always the purview of the executive to appoint the election commissioners. And it was for the first time that uh, the Supreme Court actually exerted the power. And the reason was also an absurd appointment of retirement and then being appointed the very next day, a VRS being given, and the very next day the
But
same
then,
person
but
being
then,
given.
but then, new developments need new remedies, no? So therefore,
Absolutely,
Supreme,
absolutely. So the Supreme Court came about and said, okay, now you are being absurd with this kind of
yeah,
appointment. So we
yeah,
need to establish a process. And
yeah.
in that process, judiciary kind of put one of its own, I would say, to be party to the decision making in the election commission. And government said, essentially, no, it still will remain an executive decision. And we don't want the judiciary to be part of it, which was not even part till that time. Opposition parties had no role in appointing election commissioners, right? And
Maybe not, but the point is, they neither did they interfere. The government also did not. My example is this, Kannan. I mean, I'm a little older than you, but I
yeah,
was 15 and a half, 16 when the assembly, when emergency, after the emergency, elections were declared. Okay.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I remember the entire energy in my city, Mumbai, which gave all 6 seats to the Janata Party. The whole idea was defeat the Congress because it had imposed the emergency.
yeah,
I remember at that time there were all questions of the way Mrs. Gandhi tried to influence the judiciary, the way she did, the way
mm,
that the torture in prisons, the political prison, but there was not one single question raised about whether the election commission would conduct a fair election.
yeah, yeah,
And according to me, that tells us something, right? That tells us that there was a certain step beyond which the government would not go.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I'm not denying that part.
Mm.
I'm just saying in a this Supreme Court's intervention also was because of a certain absurd decisions or
Yes,
that
yes.
happened.
Yeah.
And then the government came out with, okay, let's keep the judiciary away from the process. And maybe, so we are not in an ideal, but we are slightly improved from what we were before. And this
Mm.
potential to abuse was always there. That
Yeah.
is also one thing that we need to, like, our systems were always vulnerable to such abuses, right? Our
Mm.
processes were always vulnerable to such. It was not used, yes, but that is not guarantee that somebody else is not going to use it down the line. So yeah, for me, the trust on the commission is an holistic thing. It's an indivisible thing, right? It is not that, okay, trust me on the election process, but you can question me because we'll be at times not very courageous with respect to model code of conduct. When our other opposition parties, we might even have very strong opinions that we have to say, right? So we can be partisan in our MCC guidelines or the implementation of that, but the processes will remain fair. Now, that is not a very easy thing to communicate, and the people see through it like very clearly. If they see, very evident was, I think, 2019 when a Namo TV was there, and then commission was not able to do anything at that point of time, right? So it was very clear that, okay, how do we trust them then, and the rest of the process, and potentially one of the election commissioner who had an adverse comment on the model code of conduct by the prime minister was hounded so much that he had to leave, right? So when all this happens, then this trust us part becomes very difficult, and that is essentially the difficulty with our current process also.
I want to touch upon this model code of conduct, which Kannan has rightly brought out, that we have never seen the kind of abuse of the law in terms of hate speech as we have seen in the 2019 and now in the 2024 elections,
Right.
where with impunity, constitutional figures, government officials, ministers are actually making speeches that clearly violate the model code of conduct.
Yeah.
Election Commission does not even stop them for a temporary period from campaigning, far from having FIRs registered and pursuing the case. So the kind of hate that we see in the public sphere is singularly can be put, at least during election time, as to be the responsibility of the failure of the Election Commission to do its
It does
constitutional.
not even have to be election commission. The concerned DMs, or like, they have the full power. Let's say if somebody is coming to a district and he is giving a hate speech there, the concerned district magistrate has full power to proceed under the MCC. But the difficulty here is he's not sure that how will the commission view on this, right? If I take an action who is seen to be close to power, how will the commission is the commission going to protect me? This was one thing that is taken away. That is the commission going to protect me if I go against the people in power at this point of time, right? If they
That's such an important statement you're making, because eventually the district magistrate, the collector, whatever, returning officer, is actually takes an oath to stand by the constitution, and so does the commission. So they are supposed to actually uphold equity, non-discrimination, etc. And very often they don't, because they are simply fearful about the consequence.
Because commission, whenever the discussion was, it was very clear, we'll stand by you, right? You take whatever, be free, whatever you do, but then we see that they themselves are afraid to take, whenever there is a matter referred to the commission is unable to even write a letter. So in that case, once the elections are announced, they have to be clear. Everybody is just a candidate. There is no one candidate and another level of candidate. Everybody is a candidate, right? So that way, that level playing field has to be ensured. And if that is not ensured, then when people question on the process, I think this is what trust is indivisible, right? If I trust a person, I trust a person. I don't trust him X and not trust in Y and then trust in Z, right? Then it becomes extremely difficult person, and that is what I think commission also needs to understand. Anybody who raises question is, it's not that we are antithetical or against the commission. The legitimacy of the election is the key thing that holds the country together, right? And legitimacy of the election, and as in any competition, the loser accepting the decision, or loser accepting that whoever is losing, accepting that yes, the person who is winning has the winner. And over a period of time, if we continuously lose this, and at any point of time somebody has an issue that, oh no, we did not, then we immediately say, okay, you verify, you be satisfied. Now, do you accept? You have verified yourself. Do you accept? Okay, now you trust me, right? So that is a process that you generally take. Okay, but when we say that, no, you are just saying because you are a loser, you don't want to, that's not the way it is. That kind of an angle when you take, then it becomes extremely difficult. Over a period of time, the trust erodes, and it's become very difficult to bring it back. I'm finding it very difficult to have conversation with a lot of people who ask me questions and saying that they just tell me it is all hacked, it is all rigged, it is all this thing. I say, no, I don't think so. It's almost impossible to have that conversation. I say, I don't think so. I agree there are vulnerabilities, but I don't think they're hacked, they're vulnerable. But they just say, you are just trying to be, diplomatic, you are trying to be defensive, you are trying to be this thing. I can't counter them because I don't have a way to tell them, okay, let's verify. Right? I don't have a way to
That's
tell
a
them.
very important statement you're making, because then we come to the whole question of the shift in data parameters by the Election Commission. And I think that's a matter of concern for people like us who look at it rationally. Okay, we look at it rationally that, okay, up to about 2019, I think approximately you were making figures available, actual figures available. I'm giving an approximation. After that, particularly 2024, it was noticed that suddenly you started giving percentages. You stopped giving actual figures. And that too, you did not give it constituency wise in Haryana. You started giving it district wise. Okay. Now, that again says that why? Because in Maharashtra, you have some districts which have 3 constituencies and some like Mumbai, which have 36 constituencies. So, I mean, you then everyone said that that means if they want to manipulate that percentage, that is fine. So, I mean, what is the justification of the Election Commission in not releasing actual figures of voters polled? And there's one related question, including the hourly figures of the app, which will
Okay.
help you
Hourly period
verify.
of the app, I can immediately answer because those numbers are just guesstimates, I would say.
Okay.
Right? Because this is a very election is pretty huge exercise and a large amount of manpower and not equally trained or equally well versed or equally competent manpower is available. And the areas are also somewhere there are data access, somewhere there is no access. It's a very varied kind of a place from which we are conducting the elections. And on the day, 9 o'clock data, when we start asking, right, the essentially everybody's irritated. Even when the election commission asks, even the district level also, or the state or the district, or everybody's just irritated at that point of time because 7 o'clock the polling has started. You're trying to call everybody and say, is the machines working? Somewhere the VVPATs are not working. Somewhere the team has found something, some difficulties. Like it's a chaos, right? And so you are now asking how much has happened, how much has happened, how much is update on the app, update on the app. So suddenly, conduct of election becomes secondary and app updation becomes primary, right? Then
Okay,
this
so let's leave
app,
aside the hourly thing. Let me talk about the first
yeah,
one.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying this particular thing. Then essentially the communication is कुछ डाल दो यार उसमें मतलब
No.
election
So
is
let's
more
come to the
important.
first question. Why are they not giving us the actual
Yeah,
figures of the
yeah, yeah. No,
voter poll?
that part I'll come to, right? So that on the day of the poll, those numbers have to be seen as a best possible estimate that large constituency is able to get from various places and then compile and collect it. Over a period of time, I'm sure they'll become more accurate. By the end of the evening, there is another issue happening, which is recent, a few decades, like maybe a couple of elections back or 3 4 elections back, this evening press conference by the commission where it
Yeah.
gives the final percentage. It gives the percentages like this, like 6 o'clock or something they give. Now that is never final. What they ask is current give and also how many number of people are there on the queue, count that and give, and that's again not accurate, right? There is a lot of pressure going on if there is a queue in a polling booth and there are 2 3 people who are trying to conduct that election and they are trying to somehow get the collection conducted, and in this process the data updation question is coming. So that data also I would say we have to give this, that there is going to be difficult by the
We met the state election commissioner and he explained this to us. I'm talking about in May. And he
yeah,
said, but by 1 p.m. the next day, you can have accurate data.
yeah, absolutely right,
Okay, so let's stick to 1
absolutely right,
p.m. the next day. Okay,
yeah,
I
yeah,
buy all this. It's very huge exercise. It's not
yeah,
easy.
yeah.
But then after that, there are changes.
No, yeah, I also don't find the rationale for it. The night by early morning, because why I would say the very next day there is a scrutiny that happens, right?
Correct.
In the
And he said all
scrutiny,
the changes, all of that happens by 1
no,
p.m.
yeah,
on, yeah,
no, the scrutiny is actually a key part of our election
correct.
process. A
Because
lot
it's
of people
physical.
don't
Yeah.
go through. It is a election P plus one. After the election, next day, all the documents you already collected. So I said there is we do it in triplicate, right? The 17C and all. So one thing which is not kept in the strong room, that all those boxes are taken and taken to the observer. In the presence of the observer, we also send a letter to all the candidates and their agents. Can you come and let's discuss, right? And certain statistical things the commission already has asked us to prepare, like us in the sense maybe us 12 like in the district, so as to be prepared. And in that it is very clear, like if there is a no polling agent present, if there is only one polling agent present, if there is a huge variation in data, except all this data are to be prepared, and then it is discussed threadbare. By that point you actually have the final data, because there is no data updation that is going to happen after that, because this is the final 17C data that you are getting. There is nothing that is going to change unless, of course, there is a repoll. If maybe a repoll is announced
Correct,
in a few
correct, correct,
constituencies,
correct.
then there is, otherwise there is no data change that is to happen after the next day, maybe around, like 9 o'clock or 1 p.m. or something like that. Maybe in some cases where there is extremely far,
No, no,
yeah, so some
exceptions are
cases
fine,
it
but
could
we're
be
talking about an
exceptions. But
average.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
talking,
absolutely. There is no reason. There is no reason. So to whoever has asked me also during that period, I said, don't take the evening number in any way as to be final. Please take the next day number. The next day number which the commission says, that should be final. And that shouldn't be a percentage. That should be, because you actually have
actual
exact number.
numbers. Yeah.
Percentage you have to actually calculate. Actual number you are directly available.
No, and that
So,
raises the other suspicion, quote unquote, that
uh,
why are you giving in percentages? Why
yeah,
are you giving
no,
in
no, no reason. No reason. The app thing is also like on the day when they're updated, of course, it'll just again be asked by to the districts to verify it, and then the districts also verify it and all that, and the one level, two level of checks do happen, and but by the day it is clear that what is the data, and even more that actually I don't like this centralization idea from a very personal point of view,
yeah.
because elections are conducted in the district level or at the
Correct,
or at
correct,
the
correct.
so why all this data can be published by the concerned RO or concerned DEO, district election officer, at that level itself. There is no need to be for all of this to be consolidated and sent to the central, and then the percentage, what information to be provided in which format. This kind of data need not be provided, or it can create a format and tell it to all the districts or the constituencies, say that immediately after the scrutiny is done for your constituency, please make all these numbers available on the website.
Yeah,
Right? That's a very simple thing. So you at least commission still remains in an overseeing and a monitoring role rather
yeah,
than being the center of all these questions, right?
yeah, yeah,
Because if one constituency has given a wrong number, then the commission can write to them and ask them, why have you given this wrong number?
yeah, correct.
Now commission has taken on this role of giving it centrally. Now, if you give the wrong number, people are going to ask you, and who is going to adjudicate? Supreme Court is not going to come and adjudicate here. So we have no recourse if commission gives a wrong number. It's better that a lot of things commission has centralized, which is again the randomization part, which used to be a localized thing. Now the commission
Yeah,
has a software which randomizes, and I don't know. That's a dangerous information to have from my point of view, because it's a
it
very
is
local exercise.
because you
Why
can
should there
find
be a
out demographically who is voting where.
Mm, yeah, that's no randomization. I'm saying is in terms of EVMs. So
Okay.
from a randomization of EVMs, I don't like this having a whole database of where somebody can access that it knows which EVM is going to which booth. Why should that be the case? It's not. It doesn't serve any purpose. So why do you want to do even a randomization centrally? So a lot of this has also to take up with the roles
Why
that
would you say
has.
why would you say it's dangerous to centralize so much?
No, in the sense like commission was never conducting elections, right?
Yeah.
Elections were always conducted by the ROs, the
Mm,
returning officers, right? And commission was sending an observer, and the commission was like essentially the Supreme Court kind of an election process, right? So they were trying to correct any errors or give directions or monitor the process, etc. Once you start centralizing this stuff, you are becoming a part of the execution. Like you start, so now you're not asking, like, ma'am, you're not asking the question why this district has not given, and I
yeah.
will write a complaint to election commission saying that why this district has not. So you actually had a very easy recourse if it was a district which was not giving this.
Yeah. Yeah.
You will be simply writing to the commission can call all the people who are raising this issue and say that come, let us know what are the difficulties, which are places you are facing the difficulty, we will try to solve it for you. Instead, now all the grievances are against the commission itself.
Yeah.
So the issue with centralizing all this is you become the process, you become part of the process, like essentially and any grievances, there is no way for people to go, nowhere where for people to go, right?
And you're saying the randomization data to be possessed like this at centrally is not a very
No,
healthy.
again, yeah, again, randomization used to be very central, very local data, right? Each district they used to have a small software, or earlier it used to be a lot system, or then NIC came up with some system. So, but it was still a very local thing. Nobody was getting stored. Or now this is done through a centralized system, right? So you run it locally, but this information that which EVM is going to which booth is actually centrally available. So why should that be? Like, what is the point of having that information? You know that okay, these 1,000 EVMs are going to this district. Fine, fair enough. Why do you need to know that which constituencies it is going, and then which booth it is going? Why that information needs to be there? And if I understand from an inventory management point of view, you need to know this is from this district warehouse. Fine, Beyond that, which booth it is going should not be part of an EVM management system, right? It should not be an inventory management issue, because it is essential part of the process. It is not a electronic item that needs to be inventorized and seen. It is essential part of the process. So that, again, I think a lot of these things have to do with this centralization, in my understanding, which we have seen with respect to almost a lot of institutions. This over centralization, and then you can't question us.
Yeah.
We have taken over, now you can't question us, right?
No, I remember personally as a journalist activist, 3 states, I don't want to name the states, but where there were natural and man-made disasters and where people had been displaced. So they could not vote, okay, and elections were around the corner. So we collected data from about different 12 districts in one case, 30 districts in one case. And we actually said that, listen, it's going to be a travesty of an election if these people can't vote. So then actually they gave us a hearing and they sat with us and said that, where is this data from? We said, please double check, because this is our data. And they actually said, okay, we will double check. And there was a sense of give and take, because after all, we are not government, so we may not have everything. But equally well, we might have something from the ground that the government does not have.
It is not an adversary.
So we were not treated like adversaries earlier.
It is part of differences would be there, questions would be there, but the aim is the same. That is to have a transparent, free and fair election, or at least an improvement in that direction, right? We may not be able to achieve it in 100%, but at least the journey should be towards that. It becomes frustrating when we say that, okay, we don't need to move only in that direction, right? It's done. Then it becomes frustrating because you feel like you're hitting on the wall.
Now I want to come to the big question, which is the elephant in the room, which is that how much can an electronic voting system be manipulated? Okay, I'm not saying the machine itself, but I'm talking about the system, because you've held a view that pre 2017 there were standalone machines, and then we had some interjections taking place which make certain sections vulnerable. This is divorced from the question of whether this election or that election was manipulated. You're welcome to speak about that, but I'm just saying I would like people to understand what is the vulnerability of the system.
Even before coming there, I would like to simply say the concern in the election current process is that, if I have to summarize, what is seen by the voter is not counted. And what is counted is not seen by the voter. जो वोटर ने देखा है उसको आप गिनते नहीं, जो आप गिनते हो उसको वोटर ने देखा नहीं. तो यहाँ पे वो वेरिफिकेशन की इश्यू आता है. मतलब जो पहले जाते थे मौजले जात नहीं. That is the issue, right? So what is being seen by the voter, because he is happy seeing something and going home, but that is not counted. That is one issue. That is a crux of why there are villagers telling that we will conduct our own elections, because they are unable to. They are saying that we saw something, but results are something else. Maybe that. Maybe it could be something else also. Maybe there are local political influences, which are making people to say that. But consider for a moment that there is a genuinity to the claim, right? What could be that genuinity? That genuinity is that we have seen something, but the results are something else. How could that happen? Now, this dissonance comes from the fact that we have 2 records of 1 vote, right? Which was never the case. Throughout our elections, we have always had just 1 record for 1 vote. Now we have 2 records for 1 vote. I vote and I see a paper slip, which is 1 record, which is seen by me, verified. I wouldn't call it verified. I would just say assumed or presumed to be seen by the voter, right? So that part. Then there is an electronic record, which the voter has not seen, but which is being counted.
And this is what gets transferred to that unit.
So there are 2 records now. 2 records. One to show to the voter, and the other for the result. How can we conduct an election like that?
No.
There has to be, if I am to legally ask this question to the commission, tell me which one of this is my vote. Is it the electronic record, which I have not seen, or is it the paper slip, which I have seen? If the commission says it is the paper slip that you've seen is the vote, then I would say count the vote.
Count that. Count.
If the commission says it is the electronic record, then I'd say, what are you showing me this then for? Then show me the vote. I'm supposed to verify. Say this, you will say it is a trail, right? That is the vote, and this is a trail, right? Now, then the interesting question comes. Commission itself has written in its directions that if there is a discrepancy between the electronic vote and the paper slip, then the paper slip should be considered as a correct one. So in 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 when there is a difference between these two, then commission itself says the more authentic record of a vote is the paper slip.
But how do you arrive at that point that you see that there's a discrepancy?
Yeah, because for a sample for 5, they're supposed to, like, where it says where it is verified, where
Yeah.
it is checked, right? So out of that 5 also is a very different question. That also is a separate discussion in itself. But those 5, let's say wherever it is counted and verified, and if there is a discrepancy, then the paper slip has to be considered as the more authentic record of the vote. Now, if commission says the paper slip is the more authentic record of the vote, then again my argument would be just count the more authentic record of the vote. Why
Yeah.
are you counting the less authentic record of the vote? Why are
So
you
why are they
counting
not doing it?
Yeah, so that essentially the crux is that what is seen and verified by the voter, though it's not still verified, for a moment
Yeah.
we'll assume it's verified. What is seen and verified by the voter should be used for counting and for announcing the results. It's as simple as that. Don't show something to the voter and count something else.
So why have they introduced this anomaly?
Yeah, the anomaly was introduced because, again, the question of transparency was there. And this is where our systems of Jugaad, I would say, kind of comes into
Yeah.
the picture. The full-on Jugaad. You might remember 2009 elections. After 2009 elections, again, there was a huge hue and cry on the EVMs. The lack,
Huge, huge.
lack
2010.
of transparency, and the current party in power at that point of time was in opposition.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's huge protests, right? In terms of publishing of books, saying that EVMs are completely hacked. Election Commission, I think, conducting series of meeting with the opposition parties, and even forming a committee to explore
Yeah.
how it can be improved. Right? It cannot be thought of now like such things could happen, right? The opposition raising an issue and commission forming a committee
Mr.
comprising of
Subramaniam Swamy, Mr. Advani, all these. Yeah.
comprising of opposition party leaders
Chandrababu
to come
Naidu.
together and say that, okay, let us find a better way. And from that, this thing came out. This VVPAT thing came out. Before that, our processes were not transparency oriented, but our EVM process was process security checks oriented. Like, it was very clear these machines will always be this is more of a trust, trust the institution, right? That kind of a thing. So from a trust point of view, it was always like machines will be in the custody. It will be CCTV, or it will be like you can also guard yourself. It will be like sealed, XYZ. There is no physical access to any external device. There will be randomization process. It is candidate agnostic. The machine never knew who was what. First candidate is BJP, or second is Congress, or third is nobody knew what is, like who is what. So the machines were candidate agnostic. There were multiple levels of mock polls. So we were trying to tell the people that here it's a EVM, which is a standalone machine. It is a rudimentary machine like a calculator. It does not have a programmable memory.
Okay.
So we were telling 3 things. It's a rudimentary device like a calculator. So it's not programmable. It's totally one-time programmable. And it is not connected to any external device. So then how do you hack it, right? You can't do it's a very simple. How can you hack a calculator? Then people said, if I have access to calculator, then I can hack it, right? And say, no, it is always kept in a very secured environment, right? So you can't have access to it. Said, okay, then I can pre-program a calculator before only. When I'm making this machine only, I can do it. If I have, I can create a sequence, etc. Then the commission said, but you don't know where this calculator is going because it is randomization involved. You also don't know who is the candidate 1, who is the candidate 2, who is the candidate 3, because that candidate announcement will come around 1 week or 2 weeks before the elections. Then they said, okay, and also, despite all this, you will also be verifying it at the time of mock polls, be it during the FLC once it has come to the district, during the commissioning, which is around 15 days before the election, and on the day of poll. So this was the argument. So it was a very solid question and answer kind of a thing, and the process and security checks which were involved, it say that a meaningful, potentially maybe hackable, we don't know. It's not a question of theoretical hackability of the EVM, but considering the environment and the processes and the securities and the checks involved, if at all there is something, it will be caught, and it cannot be meaningful, and it cannot be targeted. So this is what was the whole argument was initially. Then we introduced VVPAT as a transparency measure, right? And if you see, the VVPAT means voter verifiable paper audit trail. So there are two key aspects to it: voter verifiable and then audit, paper audit trail, right? So two aspects: it should be verified by the voter and it should be audited, right? These two things are brought in. VVPAT, the Supreme Court judgment was also that, okay, we don't know what is the initial question was ballot button is being pressed, but we don't know what is going to the control unit. So whatever is going to the control unit should be printed, okay, should be printed and shown to the voter. And then later it can be verified and audited and all that. At that point of time, we already had all these lakhs of EVMs, which is ballot unit and control unit. And we didn't want to redesign the whole thing. So we kind of brought VVPAT in between these two, because there is only one wire going between this. So it's better to keep it design-wise better in the middle. So what happened with that is the vote goes from ballot unit to the VVPAT. And from the VVPAT, it goes to the control unit. So the vote flow is from BU to VVPAT and VVPAT to the CU. So the wire, if you remove, actually the vote is going from the VVPAT to the control unit, right? Now VVPAT is also the one which is printing the paper and showing it to the voter. So it does now two acts. One, it is showing the voter. Two, it is also transferring the vote to the control unit, right? The part which the voter was pressing the button is now kind of a secondary device in that. Then, more importantly, because we have to show the name and the symbol of the candidate to the voter, like you might have voted and you would have seen a paper coming in. So what was there in the paper? There is a name of the candidate and the symbol. Now, the question should immediately come, how did the EVM know who is the candidate? Yeah. Right? So something else has to be connected, right? But EVMs are standalone device. So EVMs are standalone device, not connected to any external device. Then how does the EVM know the symbol of the candidate? So that means something external is connected. Now, question of this EVMs being standalone device is being questioned. All right, it has been connected. It is essentially connected with a serial connector to an SLU, symbol loading unit, which was recently part of the Supreme Court judgment also. And then the thing was, for around a decade, Commission never told the people that there is a device called as SLU. Yeah, never told. That again another problem, right? Who are you trying to hide it from? Yeah, the people who are trying to, those we are doing the job for the, facilitating their voting. We did not tell that this SLU connects to a laptop. We did not tell that the laptop connects to an internet, right? We have still not addressed the whole part of the chain. We said some things. Okay, fine. It also needs to be programmable because we need to upload the symbol. So it's now programmable. It is now connected to an external device. It cannot be rudimentary because it has a printer, it has the storage, it has a program memory. So all these initial arguments on the EVM is thrown out. Now, randomization is also gone because both the stages of randomization happens before this external device is connected. So when you connect this external device, I already know that SLU, when I connect it to the VVPAT, I know that this VVPAT and these EVMs are going to this particular booth. So booth level information is available at the time of connection to the SLU. Then the question of candidate agnostic, that we didn't know who is candidate 1, candidate 2. Now, because we need to upload it, like if I press 1, the VVPAT has to print the name and the symbol of the candidate. So the machine has to know. So it is now candidate aware when I am connecting this device, external device. I already know which booth this EVM is going to or the VVPAT is going to. I also am aware of the date. Okay, this is the mock poll date and this is the actual date. So a lot of information is available at the time of connecting an external device to this EVM process. Now, that is not sufficient to say that it is hacked or not hacked. It is sufficient to say that all the previous arguments of security checks which evolved around candidate agnostic nature, randomization, and mock polls are not sufficient in this process. And we did not go and do a thorough...
And therefore, there are vulnerabilities.
Absolutely. Because of that, because we introduced a new device, but we did not redesign our security and process check aspects with the introduction of the new device.
That's a jugaad. That's a jugaad you call
it. That is a jugaad which I'm saying. And none of this was required actually. You could have done away with the whole security process aspects because VVPAT is not reliant on the security aspects. No. VVPAT brings in a different aspect, which is the verifiability of the vote, right? That it prints something, right? It doesn't matter somebody has hacked or something. It doesn't
So
matter.
if you simply counted that, you would be okay.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So VVPAT actually brings in a different kind of security to it, which is that it is transparent and it is verifiable.
Yeah.
So you don't need to believe in those all security checks or hackable or not hackable or all that, because we have something which is transparent and verified by the voter. And it's very simple, right? A voter has every right to verify his or her vote at the time of voting. And similarly, a candidate has a right to verify the count at the time of counting.
Yeah.
You need to ensure these two things, that a voter has a right to verify the vote and a candidate has the right to verify the count. If you're able to do these things, a lot of questions around what happened in this memory, whether it was Japan made or China made, and a lot of these questions are irrelevant. Why do I care, right? I am able to verify this end and that end. Okay, you might have something else in between. I don't care. I should be able to verify this. If I'm able to map one to one to one, I'm clear. But that, again, we did not. We don't trust our voter to even say yes or no to a. So our VVPAT machine is actually a design of distrust, I would say. A design of distrust in the sense from coming from distrust, because we are saying we will show it in a glass pane. You cannot touch it for 7 seconds. If you see, you see. If you don't see, you don't see. We don't care. But we assume that you've seen it. And this is for once in 5 years the right that we are giving to the voter, right? And we are saying that you've seen, you've seen. We don't give you the agency to verify. Verification involves agency, right? Verification is not a passive process. Like I can't just say, behind a glass pane and say, okay, this is the 100 rupees note, and you say yes or no, right? And I'll just keep it for 7 seconds. No, you'll
Not
say,
only that, if I'm not mistaken, if I try to object and say I want to object or raise a case, I can be criminally prosecuted.
oh yeah. No.
So it goes a step
The
further. I mean, I
commission
know
is,
once just to check out, I went and I said, I suppose I just want to check my what I put in. So they said, we'll let you, ma'am, but then if you're proved to be wrong and it's a correct thing, then there'll be a case against
yeah,
you.
yeah. So that's what. First of all, you are not ever checking your vote. Your vote is already gone.
Correct.
There is no way for you to verify your
In
vote.
the box, yeah,
That is
exactly.
already in the box.
Yeah.
What the process allows you is to verify the next vote.
Yeah.
Okay. You can never verify your vote.
Correct.
You can only verify the next vote, which is not the same, first of all.
Exactly.
Number two, commission is saying, if you don't trust our machine, then we might have a serious issue with you, right?
Yeah.
So this is the communication that is our legal parlance is like, if the voter is challenging the machine, we will side with the machine and not with the voter.
And you want to criminalize the very act of questioning.
Yes, that particular thing which says that, okay, we don't agree, but we not seen. And it's also possible that the next one would be different.
Yeah.
Very well case, the next one could be different. Even if the I'll say that, why are there a lot of malfunction happening, right? If by your commission's own argument, if it has been checked during the mock poll, then it should not have any malfunction afterwards, right? If there is now a malfunction, then can we have a criminal prosecution for that, right? Because the assumption is something which worked before should work now.
Correct.
Right? But that is not the case. In many cases, in the electronic voting machine itself, that something it works well in the mock poll is not working correctly in the actual poll.
Yeah,
that means the machine can change its behavior in between. So if it can change its behavior in between, why do you criminalize that act of questioning that? Right? It is a simple ask, like, can I see it again? I don't think even that is the right thing, because you are again not verifying your vote.
My own vote, yeah.
You are just verifying some other it's not even a vote. The next one is a non-vote, because it is never going to be counted, right? So you are just verifying a random piece of paper which is to be printed next. You can never verify your vote. So when we introduced our voter verifiability part, we designed the verifiability as a presumed to be seen design, rather than introducing any kind of verifiability to it. So there is no agency to the voter to verify it, to say yes or no, that yes, this is the person that I voted for, yes or no. So that verifiability part is gone. So this is the concern. All the process and all those checks have been taken away. Now we introduced a device which is supposed to bring in verifiability and auditability to the process. We brought in we completely surrendered on the verifiability. surrendered on all the process checks, and even presumed to be seen, we are highly resistant to auditing it. So the whole process is auditing it. It's very simple, right? Every election is an independent event to a constituency. This an
Yeah.
election to a constituency is not dependent on another election to another constituency. So
Mm-hmm.
election to a constituency is an independent event, right? So ideally, if I have to do a statistical sampling or hypergeometric sampling of that part, I should take each constituency. Ideally, it should be just 100%. But let's assume for a minute, go back to a statistical sampling part, the auditing part of it. Even if I have to do, I have to take the population as the number of booths in that particular constituency, and it will
Yeah.
come around 50%, 60%, depending on the, and it also depend on the margin, right? If
Correct.
the margin is,
Correct.
let's say, just 100 votes, then you might have to end up that sampling would require almost 100
Much more.
counting, and
Yeah.
100% counting would be required, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
If it is close, if the election is close, you might have to verify harder. It's
Yeah.
known process everywhere.
Yeah.
Earlier it was because the argument is again the jugaad thing. Initially, because we were entirely relying on this process checks, we
Mm.
said let us do just one EVM, one VVPAT verification per constituency. Now,
Mm-hmm.
where did this one come from? This is just to check, because we know our processes are solid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just do one. Then people went to the court and said, oh, it should be 50% or something. Then out of nowhere, court said, let us do five. Now, why it is five, why it is six, why it is four? There is no scientific reasoning for it. And it's sad that us, like, we proud to be an early inventors in mathematics, and then we don't rely on maths
No,
to
we are the
come up
world's
with
largest
numbers.
democracy. We are inventors in mathematics. We are very proud of the universal franchise system. We were the first to
Yes,
have
yes,
universal
yes.
franchise. And yet we are so resistant to transparency and scientific reasoning.
Yeah, yeah. This particular, again, so the whole that part is surrendered. The whole VVPAT is surrendered. We don't do the auditing, and none of this, like five, six, but none of this. And
Yeah.
then we have a question which is which is just like hodgepodge of multiple things, where there is no way people can verify.
Mm.
And after every election, the trust is kind of eroding.
So when some of the candidates, after the results on 23rd of November, some of the candidates wanted to go in for under the 76B paragraph of the Supreme Court judgment, that we want to verify the microcontroller in
Hmm.
whichever ones they can afford it, depending on the money they have, whether it's 10 or 5 or 4 or whatever. The reply that was given by ROs was so strange that we are not going to verify. Never mind the Supreme Court order, we'll do a mock poll. So they immediately panicked and contacted us. Okay, they were in panic. I mean, political parties were completely. So we talked to the experts. I talked to Professor Harish Karnik, who's one of our experts on this, and he immediately prepared a note to say that exactly what you're saying in a kind of a technical language, saying that these two units have labile memories, so there's a potentiality of misuse. So
Hmm.
in any case, you can't have a mock poll to replace that. And when these candidates, then I said, sir, also make a video, please, because India, nobody kind of will read that. So he even made a little video. So then when these candidates started showing that to the ROs, then they accepted their, So it's this kind
So
of,
it is drill down to
it's an
every single
absurd thing
person.
that you have to go to this extent to be able to say that.
So EVMs are, if EVM stand for election, EVM will win. There is an absolute absurd amount of trust
Yeah.
on EVM as a machine, which is drilled down. Even I say, like 2017, I have written long threads on Twitter saying that why EVMs cannot be, and
Mm.
a lot of it I still stand by.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
I felt that maybe I was not critical enough on one or two points, but
Mm.
otherwise, more or less, I stand by, because I was going by the process and security checks. When
Yeah.
when I started conducting elections with VVPAT is when I realized all my arguments that I put out in public are not correct now.
Yeah.
So then I have a responsibility to correct it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's wrong from a position of authority. You are saying something, and people do take you for that. Okay,
Yeah.
because he's saying, or XYZ is saying, maybe there is some trust to it. So then you
Yeah.
have to be honest. So when you get a new information which is countering what you were believing earlier. So
Yeah.
I wrote a letter to the commission. All this was like not just a public thing. It was written to the commission. It was told over the phone. All that was also done. But yeah, uh, everything is like, the results is what matters.
Yeah.
So if results is like palatable, then EVMs are fine. If results are not palatable, then EVMs are not fine. I keep giving you this example. Uh, what we are saying is that you have a house, and I'm telling a window is open or a door is open, right? I'm not saying something is stolen. I'm just saying that, take a look, a window is open or a door is open.
And the possibility exists, if there's an
Yeah,
instance.
yeah, because I cannot say whether it is stolen or not
Correct,
stolen
correct.
because I don't know what is there inside, right? I'm just telling this window is open. Why don't you plug it, right? Why don't you lock it? Why don't you latch it, right? Now, a sensible person will say, okay, where is it, right? Let me go and find a way to fix that. The other way is to say, no, you prove something is stolen, then only we'll close that window. That is an absurd argument. You prove something is, or you go and steal. The next argument is you hack it and show. Why should I hack it and show? If I tell you that some window is open, you can see it. If you don't see it, fine, fair enough. You tell me that, okay, that window is not open. Just check this. It's locked. Okay, fine, fair enough. I'm proven wrong. I can go back. But you are instead saying, no, no, no. Window might be open, but you tell me either something has been stolen or you go yourself and steal something and show me. I don't want to do that. And why should I have to do that? It's a simple process. And
Yeah,
there is
so,
that is again where I feel a lot of this is coming from an adversarial position to
yeah,
any suggestion, any questioning, any kind of critical thing. Of course, institutions in power will not be treated with gloves, velvet gloves. It will
yeah.
never be the case, right?
They should not be.
It should not be. Institutions in power will always be questioned harshly,
Yeah,
but you are in positions of power so that you are able to absorb those questions and
yeah,
answer rationally, take people together and go forward, right? You are not a partisan. You're not standing for election next time. You have to say that, comments on other political parties or people who are questioning this question. No, you're not standing. You're
well,
not.
we've had a situation where some judges are, so maybe tomorrow election commissioners will also stand for elections. I don't know where we are headed, but
We have in the past also that
yeah, yeah,
it's not that it is not happened in the past. It has happened in the past. It might happen in the future. That is different. You can always stand for elections.
yeah,
That
yeah,
once you're free and there is no constitutional obligation on you,
yeah,
then you go ahead, stand for election for whatever you are, being stand for. This is a very simple thing, right? Once you're free as a private citizen, do whatever you want.
correct, correct.
As long as you are holding a position in a constitutional position, or an institution,
You have to be
you be
non-partisan.
yeah, you have to be non-partisan, and more importantly, you have to be a little more thick-skinned. You
Yeah,
have to, you don't take it personally. Questions that are being
yeah,
targeted to the
yeah,
institutions, you to start taking it personally, start giving commentaries, start giving counter and all. Then it becomes very vitiated. The atmosphere
yeah.
becomes vitiated, and then it is not more a consultative process. So I think a lot of this has to do with a complete perception issue with respect to the election commission, and then evident instances where commission has not taken actions, right? As as maybe refrained from taking actions in many places, and then of course lack of transparency, which is increasing day by day.
Oh, so for instances, I'll give you another very distinct example that now all of our citizens are required to be the ones who are policing the election commission, required to look at all the rules, point out a rule or a regulation to the election commission, simply because we are not getting any answers. So on this question of percentage increases, perceivedly large percentage increases, because earlier the percentage increases appear to be smaller, 1 to 2%. Now they seem to be larger. They think that no, but there were huge queues, afterwards from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. and all that. Now, there's a rule that says, for instance, that if there are queues after 6 p.m. and voting is closing at 6 p.m., then you need to give slips, you need to give numbers, you have to give numbers from backwards from the queue, you need to videograph it, you need to videograph the entire queue. So then you provide that information and say that actually this 20 constituencies where there's this huge increase, here are the videos which show that there were long queues, then people won't have anything to say. But any question or anything which is asked is treated with such suspicion and hostility that it is extremely worrying.
No,
In fact,
I
now
again think I think this is somewhere the this centralization process the commission has taken over. This is not for commission to provide. I
yeah.
wouldn't see it like that. I would, if a question comes to me as if let's say I'm someday in the election commission, I would simply write it to the concerned DM
No,
saying,
DO. But
Yeah,
somebody has to
to the
provide it,
DO
right?
that
Yeah,
you provide this information.
yeah,
If
yeah.
they are unable to provide this information, I would, as an exemplary case, I'll start initiate an action. Right.
Mm,
Once you initiate an action on one district for not able to provide that, why there is a jump of 20% after 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock, it is very clear. So everybody else also from the next election onwards be very clear that if there is a jump going to be in 60% after 6 or 7, I need to have evidence backing that, right? It will be very
correct.
clear after that.
Mm.
Whereas when commission takes it upon itself to defend this,
No, no, I didn't mean the commission itself. I meant whoever is
okay,
dedicated
okay,
to
okay,
that
yeah, no,
job.
ideally it should be just
Because,
that only. The
because
commission should
here
ask the
people are going to
concerned officer.
ROs only.
Yeah,
People are
no,
approaching.
commission should ask the RO to provide that information, where be it during the counting, and
Here
also
the RO is saying that everything a commission will tell us to do. So this is the problem. It's a complete
yeah, yeah,
impasse.
yeah, yeah. Again, yeah. More or less, a lot of it is. In fact, this will also create a lot of training. The requirement earlier there was a trust based thing, so
Yeah,
political parties are also not so worried. They had a trust. Now, in the booth level processes are also going to be full of friction, uh,
yeah,
because there is this doubt coming in, right? So the polling agents are also going to get more active and trying to know more, not a more or it was more of a teamwork, because in the polling booth, at least inside the booth, there was no used to be fight. Outside, yes, generally yes, but inside it is a very teamwork. Everybody will verify.
yeah,
Okay, they'll verify, they'll sign, everybody will sign and then go and then finish and this thing. So because it's from the same village, people have to stay there for the whole day. So generally, it's not a acrimonious in that way.
yeah,
But because the trust breaks down, then it becomes an extremely difficult process. I hope co- uh, commission takes all, like at some point, one basic thing is that what voter verifies should be counted,
yeah,
and another thing is voters should be able to verify, candidate also should be able to verify,
yeah,
right? So candidate asks for a recount, it's not because he's a sore loser, he's because it is his right to
yeah,
ask for a recount, right? So he should be able to ask for a recount and get it verified, right? So voter able to verify, able to verify at least the data from the election point of view, from the constituency point of view should be asked. In
mm,
fact, commission can give a detailed guideline and saying that these are all points should be proactively published at the district level or the constituency
yeah.
level immediately after the elections, right? So everybody knows whoever constituency want, you go there, check and get it, whichever constituency. The fourth point I would actually want is more concerning to me is regarding the electoral roll part.
Yeah, the deletions and the additions, no?
Deletions and addition, and see, there were cases, I think it can be like, at least if there is a mobile phone, a lot of contact numbers are asked, we can send an SMS if somebody is deleted, that your vote is getting deleted. We do send a notice, right? The current process is of sending a notice, at least if there is a deletion happening because of a objection raised by a political party or something, that this person has
No,
shifted.
and there is that whole list, no, of deceased, change of address, and that
Yeah, ASD list.
ASD list, which is also not available in most booths now.
Yeah. So, like, at least make that processes also a little more transparent, at least to the voter, right? So, if some political party has taken an objection that I am no more present there, and the BLO goes and verifies that I'm not there, send, maybe it is temporary, maybe I'm not there for a month, right? But it can be communicated to me in a better way rather than just putting a notice, because
Yeah,
if
yeah,
a lot more transparent way of conducting that electoral, and it has to be seen not from making this efficient, uh, because elections are not about efficiency and speed. Elections are about correctness and participation, right? So this is the correctness, right? Correctness is not just about results. Correct people is also in terms of voting. Correctness in terms of, like, counting. So this is
verifiability,
verifiable. So
transparency.
it is not about like how fast I am able to. You take 2 months to conduct election and then half a day to announce a result. There is no.
There's also irrationality in the phasing, right? Why
Yeah,
some states are 2 phases, some places are 10 phases, some places are 1 phase.
there is no irrationality there. That is
Yeah,
very well planned. But for whatever purposes, generally those are. But that is again a very difficult thing to justify. 2 months you take to have elections. We say that sweep activities. We go in helicopters. We go in elephant and boats and to get people to vote. Once they vote, we might keep it for a month also, maybe
yeah,
15 days also, whatever. And then once we start counting, we are in an undue hurry. We are
Yeah.
telling that अभी time नहीं है boss, आधे घंटे में सब खत्म करना है, घर जाना है. So why this 2 month long process that we are taking? And
Yeah.
what constituency has changed because a candidate was announced as a winner half an hour early or 1 hour early? Which constituency? It is a wrong candidate getting announced early is a problem. Right candidate getting announced half a day later is no problem. It's
Yeah.
absolutely fine. The election results are coming at 2 o'clock. It can come at 10 o'clock in the night. It's absolutely fine. If there needs to be a resource that needs to be added for the counting, yes, it can be added. If we are actually adding GPS for GPS, then we are checking for data points. Mobile data is available or not in each day, each polling stations. Huge amount of infra improvement or infra focus is happening for the sweep activities and for the election polling activities. Whereas when it comes to counting, which is the crux of election, the counting election, we say that these are all the limitations, and because of which we can only do it for a half a day. A thorough reform on the counting process, making it transparent, making it as verifiable as possible, has to happen. I think that is long overdue.
It's a very detailed, educative conversation. I do hope it helps this trust building process, because it's
Yeah,
not a nice space to be in.
yeah,
That this kind of complete distrust as citizens of the Election Commission of India, which is a
yeah.
constitutional body. It's a constitutional body. So thank you very, very much for this conversation, and I'm hoping that people watch it and have questions for you and for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.